Hello and welcome to the FNCS preview. My name is Evan2K. We're going to be talking about NA FNCS Groups 1 and Group 2. But I'm not alone today. I'm joined by the wonderful Teddy Moss, the man behind the Clutch Up YouTube channel, making some of the best content in the Fortnite competitive scene. Teddy, it's a pleasure to have you here, man.
I love it. I'm excited. Hopefully we can have some big, great moments when we
Absolutely.
these two group stages, these awesome groups too.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited for the groups because I think it was pretty much the same on EU where like group 1 of both regions was kind of like, it's there. Like you got like 1 or 2 teams that you're like, okay, this is cool. But now we start to get into the heavy hitters, and group 2, especially in NA, you instantly get the heavy hitters because you have a lot of the biggest names, a lot of the names we've seen dominate in tournaments so far. So if I get up the map here, right, I'll get up the map and you can see instantly what I'm talking about when I'm saying the heavy hitters, right? You got the likes of Peterbot, Cold, Ritual in this lobby. You've obviously got Booga, Vive, and Frets. You got Rise, Muzz, Yapko. You know, you got Vidil, Cooper, and Sphinx, who've probably looked like the second best team in NA of late, right? Like you've got some big names here that you're expecting to do really well. Initially, when we look at this map, and I think this will be the trend across like almost all of the groups, we're not seeing a lot of those like big name teams be contested. A lot of them are getting their spots uncon, which is great. If you're a fan of those guys and you want to see them get to the grand finals. Before we get into the big hitters, is there any like Osborne fights you're really intrigued by? Because the funny thing about this map for me straight away was like seeing Dojo triple con. I think we saw that one game in EU Group 1, and then instantly all the teams realized, wait, this is not the play. So I'm assuming a lot of these like Osborne battles have potential to switch around. But yeah, was there anything you were thinking around the Osbornes?
Yeah. So first of all, if Group 1 was the appetizer, this is the main course, right? I think Group 2
Right.
is the main course of NA. So it's really, really exciting. I think probably the key thing is how fast can Peter win? How fast can teams like Rise win? Some of these big teams, can they get the win out of the way early and and limit some of these off spawn fights? So this team here, right next to Peter and Cold, Nut, Fred, and Liam. So Nut is like true. He's like a console FNCS champion in Stark season. He was really good in the last round of trios. So he's there's a lot of NA players who did well in the last batch of trios in 2021 who are trying to make comebacks. So I think this fight right here next to Peter, Cold, and Ritual, if Peter, Cold, and Ritual are still in the lobby, it's wraps for them, right? This is it's wraps. But if Peter, Cold, and Ritual win game 1 or 2, then maybe Nut, Fred, and Liam, they can shift over to Peter, Cold, and Ritual's spot, and we'll see them have a chance to keep this comeback narrative for Nut going.
Yeah, it's funny. If you watch Peter and them play, right, like that a lot of that is their surge strat, where like they are just pushing into that area of the map, you know, whether they pull zone or whether it's a far pull, like they'll sit in storm and just like harass these teams nonstop, you know, farm the reboots and whatnot. So all of those teams on like the northwest of the map will be hoping that Pete just doesn't want to play too many games and he just wants to do a one and done and get out, right? Because that is the best chance for a lot of them to do well this tournament.
Yeah, if I was a contested team, I would start a social media movement to say the perfect season doesn't count unless Peter wins the first game of heats. That's what I would be doing to get them out of the lobby, and then get an available drop spot on the map.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with you. They 100% have to start pushing that narrative. An interesting stat to you then to throw into the works as we're talking about the big hitters and just looking at the overall lobby. In set lobbies finals this season, so the eval finals and the obviously divisional weekly finals.
Yeah.
There are only 4 teams in this lobby who have actually won a game. So when you're looking at game winners, you know, and historically what's happened so far this season in NA, there are only 4 teams who have won a game. This is very easy, but I'm sure you can guess the 4 teams, right? So I'm going to give you the chance now to guess which 4 teams you think that is.
All right. Well, I'll take the obvious one off the board. Peter, Cold, and Ritual.
Right.
That's one
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
The second most obvious one, Vidil, Cooper, and Sphinx, and we definitely need to talk about them a little bit more. Obviously,
For sure.
All right. Let me Skittles, Chimp, and Victor. I'm going to go a little bit off the board here.
Okay.
Have they won a game? Oh, I'll guess them all. And
yeah,
then
guess them all. Guess them all.
I'll go Rise, Muzz, and Yapko.
Rise, Muzz, and Yapko is the last team to win a game there. So I can reveal you got 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4.
Skittles, Chimp, and Victor have not won a game in a set lobby final this season. The last one was Booga, Aviva, and Frets. I think the game they won, if I remember correctly, because I VOD reviewed their first tournament they played, like the first week, and I think it was the first tournament they played when they won a game. It was like a height game that they won, because they've been sending it for height a lot this season. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned Skittles, Chimp, and Victor, because they're actually a team that like I would predict to win a game. Like I think they're really good. Skittles is a player that I feel like goes under the radar quite a lot. When you like look at like how close he's been to like the top pinnacle of success over the past couple of years, it's he's not been far away, and a lot of times Chimp as well. Chimp and Victor underrated players. Like Victor, I think has all the talent in the world, right? It's just about getting more of that experience in. And Magic Mosses is a great spot. Uncon Magic Mosses is a really strong spot. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think so on EU, I think we had like Roban landing there and they qualified. I don't know who was in their group 1 of NA, but that's a really nice spot to have Uncon in group 1 or in group 2, sorry.
Especially with 2 contested teams next to you.
100%.
And especially if they also probably want to get the perfect season narrative for Peter, get Peter, Cold, and Ritual out of there.
Yeah, no, that's true. Okay, then let's talk about the big boys. Then enough, stalling you guys out. Who do you want to start with?
Well, I think I need to apologize to Booga for not guessing him. That's a bit of a sheep opinion, I guess.
Yeah.
As Booga would maybe tweet at me and get mad. But I think so. Obviously, the narrative around Booga is he's not locked in on Fortnite anymore.
Right.
He's like the maybe number 1 rumored true tier 1 GOAT candidate, contemplating retirement. But I really like that trio. It's not everything you need. I guess with Pete and Ritual and Cold, maybe you can't say FNCS winning trio. You can't really throw that around. Right. Traditional tournament, that's an FNCS winning trio. You have Threats, who's a beast on Surge, right? One of the better aimers we have in the game. You have Aviv, who's probably that next tier of Fragger on NA, and then you have Booga, who. I mean, I think you'll see the underperformance from Booga in future majors if he continues to get not locked in. And we can talk about meme coins. We can talk about meme coins a little bit later because maybe that's not a trend that lasts forever. So I do like this team to do well in Major 1.
You know what? As much as on this channel, I get labeled as a Booga hater because of my FNTasia, partners. When I first saw this trio, I thought, this is a really good trio as well. Like you said, when you look at the composition of the trio, it makes sense. You sort of have all the talent there needed to succeed in an FNCS. And even with Booga, some of the early tournaments of these guys I watched, I was actually really impressed with Booga. They've been sending it for height a lot this season, and he was sort of like, he had a really good early read on like how to play height this season, right? Like they were using the TPs really well. Like they were one of the first team that I saw, doing like pre-TPs to like secure like good spots to play height from. Like his awareness on height, like there'll be end games I watch where I'm just like watching him. I don't care about like Frets and Aviv, like fragging out. I'm just watching him, and like his awareness was like on point. But then, like you say, you see that they're not as locked in. and that's sort of been a narrative around them. And I think the biggest concern for me, and maybe this is me reading too into it, but when I saw Frets playing Eval, I think it was this week, with like 2 EU players, or whatever it was, or just 2 fills, I was like, again, that's just not like a good sign to me, you know, like this is the period in time where you got to be ramping up, got to be getting ready, you know, for FNCS. And like you got Fretz, who I think is the least meme coined out player on that team.
Yeah.
And it's like he can't get his teammates on to play a tournament right before the FNCS week. So like, yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for me in terms of like predicting these guys. I would say though, in the context of this group, I think like there'll be deeper conversations to have about them like next week as we get to like grand finals and predicting for grand finals. In this group, like Seaport is a really great spot. They sort of like have like the map control you get from Seaport in terms of that whole like southeast area of the map is like really good, and like playing for Surge is pretty straightforward for them. So even though Buganaviv may not have been playing the game as much, I'm still fairly confident in this group that they're a team that like you'd expect to see go through. Like it would be a shock if they didn't qualify. 100%.
Definitely, and they're all veterans, right? Threats and Aviv, their first FNCS was trios 3 years ago now, or 4 years ago now, in Chapter 5 or Chapter 2, Season 5.
Yeah,
so these are like 3 trio veterans. Bugha is technically the defending North America trio champion. Since defending trios champion. So I think if we see Bugha not be locked in, it won't happen. The consequences won't happen in Major 1. They'll happen later on as he gets less and less locked in.
Okay, makes sense. All right, so another trio in this group, right? Rise, Muzz, and Yapko. I've been really intrigued and impressed by this trio because obviously when Rise and Muzz drop clicks, instantly the narrative is always just around clicks, of course, because it's clicks. And a lot of the narrative instantly sort of switched to, oh my God, Clicks might have like finessed his way into an upgrade here, right? He's playing with Batman, Bugha, and Yomzo. This is great. And I think it sort of meant that what Rise and Muzz did in picking up Yapko sort of went under the radar. And it really shouldn't, because this is a trio. Like, this is a really, really good team, a really strong team. I'm not sure how much of Yapko you've seen, but in terms of like individual performance and the level they're playing at right now, they upgraded as well. Yapko is playing at an unbelievable level at the moment, a level that's better than Clicks, I would say, as much as the Clicks fans will be upset with me probably. It completely makes sense to me why they made this move, and I think they've reaped the rewards of it. Like, they've been very strong.
Well, you have to have really high conviction to make a move like that, to drop Clicks, to do it publicly. But I completely agree. To me, this trio fits really, really well together. Like they seem to have all the right pieces. And Rise had a pretty off year last year. I think Muzz is looking for that kind of consistent top 5 team trio, right? He's always in the mix in NA, but if you look at the course of his placements, it's never quite the top 5 consistent finishes that his talent would lead you to believe. So right. I do think that this is a team with a lot to prove, and I'm really, really, really excited to see how they do, because they make perfect sense, and I think really all 3 of them have a chip on their shoulder.
What do you see then for this team in this group? Is this like a consistency team for you? Is this a team that's winning a game? Obviously, they're one of the only teams who has won a game in this lobby, in the set lobby final. Where do you sort of see them falling in line as qualification goes?
Well, I will lock in the qual. I think first and foremost, this is a team. It would be very, very shocking if this team didn't qualify. Let's say they win game 2. Like they get after it. But I think no matter what, on consistency, they'll qualify through as well, because I just foresee them playing in every end game if they don't, for whatever reason, win a game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think for me, I'd pre-pencil them in for a win. I think the wins here in this group are actually probably the most obvious. Like, they're the ones I feel most confident about, maybe of like any group in EU or NA. Like, I just feel like it's pretty straightforward. When you look at like the quality of the players in this group, the level they've played at this season, the level around them in the group, it feels straightforward to me.
Yes.
But these things are never straightforward, especially in NA. I feel like, yeah.
That's why you don't play the games on paper. Yeah, there's definitely 5 top tier teams, like
right.
5 basically automatic quals you can pencil in.
Right. Okay, then let's talk about the 2 most consistent teams. Then we'll start with Vidil, Cooper, and Sphinx. They've won the 2nd most set lobby final games of any of the teams in this group. I think of any team in NA. I think they are the 2nd most after Pete and them. I've been so impressed with this team, as I think everyone else has been. It's great, obviously, as an EU person, to see Vidil doing so amazingly well over on NA. But what have you made of this team so far, and their consistent low ground play style, and how that's faring in this group?
Yeah, so this is another trio that, again, in a normal non-Peter, non-Cold, non-Ritual FNCS, you'd be super, super, super excited about.
Right.
But they're very locked in. They've been very consistent. I think Cooper did get a little bit of, Cooper's title defense last year was good, but not great, right? He didn't win anything. He was really quickly overshadowed by Peter. And I think he's as good as any player in this lobby. And then, Vidil bringing the EU tier 1 pro to NA is a really, 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 they're just an unbelievable team. So I'm excited to, this is a team that I really want to see in Grands, to be honest. I think, because I think that the narrative, they're going to qualify. They're super locked in. It's a team that I really want to see in Grands, and they are one of the teams that can challenge Peter, Ritual, and Cold, in my opinion. Because I think you guys were saying on a Fantasia last week, hey, NA is maybe really boring this season. There's no great storyline. But some of the best moments in sports and Fortnite, et cetera, is when there's this huge favorite and then one team emerges to challenge them. And this is one of the teams that I think can do that. So I think we want to see dominant performance this weekend. We want to see them qual easily, and then we want to see them to be locked in and ready for Grand.
You know what? It's funny because I think they will be a very polarizing team, in the sense of, like, I think there will be a lot of people who look at them and go, of course, I mean, if you look at the results and performances, they are the challenger to Pete, right? They've been the 2nd best team since they've formed. And there'll be like critics like myself who go, they're good, but I don't know if they're that competition. I do think, though, that they sweep this group. I think one of the interesting things about them in this group is, I reckon, if I was to make like a boldish prediction, I don't know how bold this really is, but if I was to make a boldish prediction, I'd probably say that, like, they're the only team I see winning a game not involving high ground. Like, I can see a lot of the other teams winning their game through making some sort of like great height play. Pete and them have played a lot of mid and low ground this season, to be fair. Like, they're not as height dominant as like maybe you'd expect for how good they are. But Vidil, Cooper, and Sphinx are just exclusively low ground. It feels like, right? Like, there's times when I've seen Sphinx like look up at it and I'm like, you're not fooling anybody, brother. Like, respect for scouting height, but you ain't going up there. And they don't need to, because when you have, Vidil and Cooper in good positions to like just, frag out on low ground, right now, the only 2 people better at that are Peterbot and Cold in the world, you'd probably say. So yeah, I think this team wins a game, probably, in the way they've been doing it, all day, all, tournaments long, playing sort of mid and low.
Yeah, I love it. We're in what, year 5 of Vidil making plays in big moments in big lobbies. So, I think the NA fans are absolutely going to love it. Like that.
For sure.
Vidil, Noah, and Rezon. Basically every single FNCS they played in, we did a clutch up video on. That was like the most electric trio, in my opinion, of that era. And I'm excited to see Vidil bring that energy to NA.
It's been really fun. Their vibes are great as well, which always helps. All right. Well, a lot of people may not know that over at Clutch Up, you guys have recently made like a new sort of fantasy Fortnite game. You got like a website going for it, which has been really fun. I tried it last week and it made watching Fortnite even more fun for me. So I want to play the game with you this week, and we're gonna essentially how it works for people. If you've never played fantasy before, this might get confusing, but we'll try our best to explain this as simply as possible. Essentially, the goal here is to select 10 different teams. You have a budget of $50. Each team has an allocated price, so you can't just get all the best teams. You sort of have to, keep your budget in mind and make strategical choices. And the goal is to have the team of 10 teams that accumulates the most points that week or that tournament, right? So, you're competing against other people. We can actually make like a, Fantasia League or something like that and invite all of you guys to it. But the global leaderboard, you're competing against other teams who have selected 10 other teams as well. The first time I played, I got second in the EU leaderboard.
With a great name too, a very clever name.
It was a clever name. I've gone a bit safer this time, but it was a very clever. That's like the fun of fantasy, like whenever I play fantasy football or soccer, to accommodate, the Americans watching this, whenever I play that, it's just part of the culture to have like a very cheesy, corny pun name, 100%. So my name last week, I think, was like Ready, Seti, Go, so it was, very cheesy, but I'm working on new ones. Okay. Group 2 then, fantasy-wise, even though I just talked about having to be budget conscious, because of the nature of how the points work in the groups where a win is 1,000 points, you really need to get the game winners right. Like you need a couple game winners for sure.
It was 3,000 points to win EU last week in Group 1, and it was 4,000 points to win NA. So you need at least 3 group winners to have a chance to win.
And if I'm thinking in that mentality, with my $50, instantly, I'm taking Peterbot. It's 30, it's very expensive. Very, very expensive. But instantly, I'm taking Peterbot. I'm instantly also wanting to take Vidil in them. It doesn't leave me with much money. But these are just two teams who, like for me, it's a foregone conclusion they win. And so it's the guaranteed like 2,000 or odd points. The question is, do those teams win instantly? Because obviously if they win instantly, then it's just like the 1,000 points. So it's not really like that much. Whereas like, let's say Vidil and them win game 5, then you get the 200, right? Like you've cooked. You've cooked if they win game 5.
Yeah, so you want the game 5 winner, but I think you also want some underrated teams, right? You want to fill out your roster with some underrated teams. So I can make a few suggestions.
Okay.
So Macwood, Cam, and Bacon. Let's see how much they're going for. But this is a really interesting trio. I know we're not looking at the drop map anymore. Macwood does always have a plan to get on height in endgame. He's going to try it, and they could definitely sneak out a win. Cam is one of these guys who was, last time we were in trios, he was in conversation with the Colds of the world, the Peterbots of the world, the Yamzos of the world, as these are the next players that are going to define the next era of the
crazy
game.
Solo player, yeah.
And crazy solo player. It didn't quite happen, but maybe the talent is there, the experience is there. This is definitely a trio that's, I see $5. I think that's definitely worth the investment.
I think that's very good value. As a team that like could win a game given the chance, but you could probably expect to be one of those consistency teams, I think $5 for Macwood and them is good value in the market. I'd agree. Where else is some good value then? Where else is some good value when you're looking at teams that you'd maybe expect to do it on consistency and even sneaking the win? That's the ideal thing, right? If we sort by price here, if you pick up like a $3 player and they just win a game, like that's like, you feel like the greatest scout in all of Fortnite. Where else do we have some value then, would you say?
Yeah, so let's look at Aoxy's trio because they're in
Okay.
a good spot at the map. Um, when I checked last night, they had 2 teams contested next to them. So maybe they're a little pricey because you kind of blew your money on the 2 big teams. But I will say to the viewers, that's not a bad team. That's not a bad team to invest in. The team has pedigree. The
Right.
team's on a good place on the map. And I think that they could do pretty well.
Okay. I think Aoxy, Jojo Fishy, I can see it. Where are these guys landing on the map? Let me take a look. If we look at the map here. Oh yeah, okay, they're landing like Bird.
Yeah, they're
Bird
landing
Uncon.
and they're unconned, and they
And
have a third party, right?
Spawn, yeah. Night shift off spawn. Like some of those night shift off spawn fights can be quite slow, right? Because like you can sort of swerve off into the forest, get loot, and so like if you're the Bird team, you can definitely sneak in there and maybe third party that.
Yeah.
So okay, I like that. That's a cool shout.
What do we think about? I think this is it's another $5 one, but we did see Diego Plays and the Scented Comeback Dream back in Major 2 in 2023.
Okay. So you're selling me here on Diego Plays Uncon at Shoguns.
So it's not the best spot. It's not the best spot, but I think he is a very talented player still, and he has hit the glorious pump to win one of these games and do an auto qual.
He has. It's interesting because you say not a good spot. I'm very familiar. I feel kind of offended because that is my trio spot, Shogun. I feel like you low-key just dissed me there, but you're right. It's not the most amazing spot on the map, but it is. I think it's an all right spot. I think it's a decent spot. Okay, so my thinking here now, maybe this is just overreactionary to my experience of playing the fantasy so far, is when I played this with with the weekly finals a couple weeks ago, and I did well on EU, I didn't do as good on NA. I felt where I went wrong was not overcommitting on NA to the stars, whereas on EU, also I'm a bit more familiar with EU naturally, right? So in EU, I feel like I can spot the value in the market a bit better. Like I know, I'm more like, okay, I know this team isn't gonna cost a lot, but I know they're gonna do well because they play well from the spot, etc., etc. Whereas on NA, I tried to do the same thing on NA, and after the fact, I was like, I should have just gone with like the big stars, like the rises of the world, right? So I'm tempted again to go with Rise because I didn't pick him last time. And it's funny because I was talking to Rise and he told me to pick him because I was actually showing this to them and I was like walking through my process and he was like, yeah, you got to pick me, bro. And so I kind of don't want to make the same mistake again. And I want to go with my guy Rise.
No, I love it. You're just going to, so what I did do after group 1 is I raised the floor price to make it a little bit harder to just stack the 5 best teams and then have a bunch of $1 teams. Because when I looked, a lot of people do that. They take the 4 best teams and then they look for every $1 team and they just load it up in there. They have 6 lottery tickets and 4 absolutely sure things. I tried to make it a little bit more challenging. So take Rise, but then we'll really need to find some value on the board for you.
I might have to get rid of one of my, because I don't think I can't financially with $8. I can't pick 5 teams.
Exactly.
I can't pick 5 teams, so I'm gonna be forced here to get rid of one of them. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Okay.
What about this team? Because when I checked, they have a good spot on the map. They're near a lot of third parties, and this is Edward, Ziggy, and Kalper. And Ziggy does have a little bit of pedigree. He has been in grand finals before. They're $4. if we bring up the drop map, you had a slightly different drop map than I was. I was looking at comp reports on Discord. They're right next here to Aoxy. They have natural height in their drop spot. That's
Right.
like a pretty good bet for $4, which is not a bad team, a team with a little bit of pedigree, and a team with a good spot on the map, and 2 spawn fights next to them. 3 spawn fights next to them.
Yeah, quite a few spawn fights next to them. That's a good shout. I feel like that's it's very hard for me here because, you know, I feel like in the other groups in EU, like when you look at EU and like looking at the people who've won games in set lobby finals, there's like more to go off of like a team who could sneak a win. Here, I'm like trying to think of just who has a good enough situation to where you'd expect them to do all right consistency wise.
Yeah.
But then the problem that we don't factor in that like is a thing. I don't think we saw it as much in group 1, but like when a team wins and their spot becomes uncon, like someone can play from that spot and like cook, you know? So if we're expecting a Pete, a Vidil, a Booga to win a game, you know, now someone can land there but I don't have that sort of knowledge of who maybe would want to, right? Because at least in EU, I think when we had the night shift team win game 1, I think it was, and instantly the next game we had like Teeny try land there because he was like, oh, it's going to be on con, right? Because that's a spot he's familiar with as well. But Caliper, Ziggy, Edwards, I think that could be a decent shout. Like you said, lots of us spawning around them.
Yeah. And then I think the team next to them, so $3, is Yuma's trio. Because that is a team, because in Heats and in this, you're looking for players who are capable of making grand finals with good situations on the map.
Yeah.
That team set at $3. So maybe that's frankly the steal of the lobby. Because $3 is what I set the floor price for this week. Just to make it a little bit more interesting for people and just to force people to be a little bit more creative with their budgets.
I like that just because, you know, Canyon Crossing, obviously you have a lot of good metal. And they can get involved, like surge-wise. Like there are pretty decent options from Canyon Crossing. It's a hard one though. I don't know too much about those guys, so it's hard for me to say. But you're looking for value. They got a decent spot, uncon. Let's do it. Let's do it, and we think later. Any of these $3 teams that maybe got something for me? Any of these other $3 teams? What are these guys on the map? Let's see. So
the $3 ones are really hard, right?
Very, yeah.
You just have to hope. You have to hope that they get uncontested at one point.
Which could be an option, which could be like possible in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I want to go for the Ziggy, right? I feel like I want to go for that one at 4. But now obviously I'm left at $1 and I need 3 more teams, which means one of my big hitters is gonna have to go. And it feels like financially the one that makes the most sense to go would be the deal. Well, actually, no, I guess I could because if I get rid of these Rise, I need 4 teams with $9, which is not really gonna make sense. Whereas at least if I get rid of a deal, 4 teams with $11, I think I can do that.
You can squeeze
I think I can squeeze it in with some
actually,
$3
if you
teams.
the floor price, you need $12, I think, to fill out the team.
Oh my god!
No, I made it hard this week. I made it hard this week, Levin.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
There was a meta on this game in the past that people would always be messaging me about, which is take Peterbot and then click randomly. So I'm really trying to get
That's the meta.
I'm really trying to adjust the meta.
Okay. Okay. You know what? So what I think I want to do here, I think I'm gonna take Nut. I think I'm gonna not take Aoxy. I'm gonna take Nut and them because I think in a world where Pete wins a game, they have a chance to like do something
Definitely.
from that spot. Like if they loot quick, get out as far as they can. Like they don't even have to loot that much before they get out. Because at most you have in like the early game, you have like one of Pete, Cole, and Rich will go up to the tower, look for some tags. But if they can like get out fairly quickly, and if Pete and them win a game, then that whole area of the map becomes like less contestable. Whoever goes there at least is not as scary.
Exactly.
I could see a world where Nut and them could actually do something. So I'm gonna take the deal off, get Nut, and now I have 4 teams with $3. So I'm gonna go for the $3 gambit here. We're gonna take some $3 teams and call it a day.
And I think it's all up to which of these $3 teams is uncontested or has a path to be uncontested.
Right. In that case, right, is there anyone you think could maybe be a shout here when it comes to $3? Because I could go for the meta and click randomly and just pray. But I want to be a bit tactical here. Maybe I'm thinking, how much do these guys cost? Let me see if I can find their names. How much will they cost? They cost $4. Okay, I was thinking of Joji. Aaron, Nerface, Night Shift. That's one where like you're probably not conning that all day. And at least if you are, you're probably like at one point someone's like moving. Or that's just like free surge early. And you know, it makes your game a lot easier. I'm not sure what the off-spawn numbers are like between those teams. But they're $4 and I need $3 teams. I
was going to say Knives, but he's $5. Unfortunately, his trio
expensive.
Yeah,
expensive in this economy. $5. Oh wow.
Well, yeah, the Clutch Up app got hit with inflation. A big dose of inflation.
Yeah, I feel like everywhere is right now. So, okay. $3 teams. Broken Sigma, conning at Boxcars. I mean, that one could be quite 50-50. You get a good game. You know, you play it out. Mythic AR, maybe not a bad shout.
I assume maybe, to be honest, one of the triple conned teams could be a play because they're the most likely to make a desperate drop spot switch.
Yeah.
When after a win, like they can't possibly be going into the tournament believing that they're going to qualify triple conned.
Right. If that's the case, then I kind of just want to take Pastor Jack, purely because on Fantasia this week we found his name funny. Pastor Jack, what a name. How much are they? Am I like blind? I can't see them. Are they not $3 team?
Oh, yeah, they are. You got them. They're right at the top of your list here. Yeah. I'm pointing at them. I'm pointing at it as if you can see me pointing, but they're two from the bottom.
2 from the bottom.
But what you scrolled now. So
now
I
scroll. Oh, sorry, my bad.
You can search on the top too if you want to, if you just type in pasta.
There you go. See, look, I'm learning the features there.
There you go.
So I'm sure people are watching screaming like, oh my goodness, you are looking right at it. Okay. In terms of then, so I need 3 more $3 teams. I'm gonna go.
What about Dorito? As just a shout to the console community. It's a small but strong community, and you know if you get their support,
That can go a long way.
Yeah, they'll support you.
I did meet the person at PlayStation behind the PlayStation Cups recently. I actually met him and I begged him for more PlayStation Cups. So that actually is a good shout. I like that. I like where you're going there.
They want console FNCS at all costs.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know if I can make that one happen, guys. I could try. I can put in a word, but I don't know if they'll go for that one. And again, I'm like not seeing this. Who's the other person on the team? Flux.
You know, sometimes I probably shouldn't say this. I do have to leave trios off if they don't name themselves. Change their names, and it's completely impossible to recognize them.
Okay. Well, in that case,
so sorry, Dorito.
Yeah. Well, now I have to go win a game. They'll, stick one to you. So
Exactly.
That might come back to bite you.
That's definitely going to come back to bite me.
All right. Well, I'm trying to think. I think here in this case, I think I'm gonna go with the case. No, the case $4. Oh, I thought Kappa Factory could be a good shout. All right. I'm gonna go with Broken. I'm gonna go with Broken, the other boxcar team instead. We're going against the console community. And then I'm gonna go with Xavi. And then we're gonna round it out with the Rolling Blossom split Uncon, Regulard. We're gonna go with there. That's my team.
That's a championship team. That's a championship.
That's the winning team this week. That's the winning team. All right, let's talk Group 3, and we'll save the fantasy for Group 3. Let's talk Group 3 real quick before we wrap up. I'm conscious of time. Lot less off-spawn fighting, but plenty of interesting names. I want to play the same game with you and see, can you guess which teams in Group 3 have won a set lobby final game this season? And spoiler, there's not many.
And okay, so I'll just guess.
Yes, I'll tell you. There's 4. There's 4 like there was in Group 2. There's 4.
All right, so we'll take the easy one off the table. Acorn, Agers, and Pollo.
Okay.
We'll put that one. We'll put that one in the bank. We'll go Rapid, Kanata, and Bolts, and we definitely need to talk about them.
Okay.
This can be where I do my little meme coin rant. I want to say Quanti, Edgy, and Baila have won a game.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna go deep pull because it'll be like he's a huge ball knower if he gets this, and then if I get it wrong, it was a hard question to begin with. But Noxy, Virgo, and Curly.
Ooh, interesting. I think I would have guessed Noxy, Virgo, and Curly as well, because those guys, they play good Fortnite. But they have not won a game in the set lobby final, in eval and weekly finals. You got 3 out of 4 again. So Rapid, Kanata, Bolts, Quanti, Baila, and Edgy have won a game. Rapid and Kanata have won 2 games. Acorn, Agers, and Pollo have won 1 game. And the last team that has won a game in the set lobby final this season is Bucky, Okis, and Craze.
The Bucky fans are going to be all over me.
They're not going to be a fan of you after this one, I'll tell you that much.
I left Bucky off the top 50 players of all time video we made on Clutch Up, and a few Bucky comments. How could you have Bucky over Reverse, or how could you have Bucky over center that person? So the Bucky fans, they come out hard. It's a true fanatic. Right,
I mean, they're gonna be on you again, then, mate. It seems to be a trend of you. You clearly have some sort of Bucky agenda going. But when I look at those 4 teams, I look at, I've not watched as much Bucky this season, so I actually don't really know how good they are. I'm not sure if that's bad on my part, but I've not watched too much of them. The other 4 though that have won games are 4 that I would have predicted to win games. Right? You look at Rapid, Kanata, and Bolts. Dojo. They, as much as it's quite controversial, some of the stuff going on with them, and we'll talk about that a bit more. You'd expect them to win a game. Acorn, Agers, and Pollo, 100% you'd expect them to win a game. I think they play that spot really well. I think in endgame, there's some stuff that maybe they need to iron out. But, you know, in terms of consistently making it to end games, I'm confident in that team to do that. And Quanti, Byler, and Edgy, uncontested Miles Meadows, you know, I love Quanti. I think Quanti is a great player. Byler and Edgy with him as well, I think are two super underrated players and have been very successful players in their career, right? So for me, I'd predict all of those guys to win games for sure. The other teams you didn't add to that is
completely agree. This lobby has I think 3 locks compared to the 5 from Group 2. So this lobby is maybe a little bit less stacked than the one we just looked at. If Group 2 is dinner, this is dessert. Still good,
right? Yeah,
still good, but just not quite as stacked as the last group. So I do like Quanti, Byla, and Edgy, and Edgy is one of the best trio players of all time,
for sure.
Purely based off of placements, and I don't think Edgy is ready to be washed. So
to hang it up, no, I agree. I don't think he is. In that sense, then, who are the people who are like potentials for you?
Yeah. So Bucky, Okus, and Craze. So not just a pure distilled Bucky criticizer.
Okay.
I do think that they are one of the best. They are one of the best teams. Noxy, Virgo, and Curly. I would be surprised. Maybe it's consistency. I would be really surprised if we didn't see them in grand finals. And then there's actually a bunch of interesting underrated teams in Group 3 compared to Group 2. So 1, Sprite, comeback. Does he still have the win a big game, everything on the line? Does he still have the dog in him?
Does he still have the big clutch in him?
Does he still have the? Can he still clutch up? And they're unconned at the top of the map.
Okay.
And we see NPen's team. They've been okay this season. So could we see NPen back in grand finals? So that's another good team. This one team, Sharkman, Elsa, and Ral, they're unconned. Yeah, they're unconned. They have 2. There's really good spawn fights in this group, so we should make sure that we talk about those. But they're unconned, and they have some third-party opportunities around them. And Sharkman and Elsa have played together for a really long time. We have another comeback from a former Tier 1 or Tier 2 NA Pro with Degen.
Yes.
Forgot where he's dropping, but
Boxcars.
Yeah, but there's a lot of love for Agers. There's still some love for Skittles. Degen was the 3rd member of that trio.
Right.
Can he make some plays? And then this Chaos Gaming, Noah W plays, and DK Awesomer. This is 100% a team that can make grands. I know at least 2 of the 3 of them, and they're creators first, streamers first. But
they're good.
Yeah, really good. And Chaos Gaming in particular is a guy, he's been, again, I think in these kinds of lobbies, you're looking for players who have made grand finals before with really good situations on the map. And I think that's how you're projecting who are playing well right now. And that team hits all 3 of those criteria. So I like those as the underrated teams.
Okay. I like that as well. I'd say the only other one I'd add, which is the one you actually gave a big shout out to at first, is Noxy, Virgo, and Curly. I think uncontested Kappa Kappa Factory. Yep. There's a contestation happening north of them, Shattered Span. I think Kappa Kappa Factory is a great spot. It's the reason why we're seeing so many teams contest for it. I think on some of the other regions and other groups is because it's such a great spot. I think they've been playing great Fortnite, and so I would expect them to qualify through. I could see them winning the game, to be honest with you, but even if they didn't win a game, I think consistency wise, you'd expect them to go through there. You mentioned off spawns, and I'm with you. This one has, not as many crazy in terms of off spawns in terms of the total amount as that the Group 2, but I think maybe some more interesting ones here. First one I think I want to get to, and I want to get your thoughts on this one. Over to sort of the west of Foxy Floodgates, you have Somerset, Carrot, and Sieges contesting Gary, Jeezy, and Doxy. And the significance of this one is huge because, of course, Somerset's involved. She's recently been in a bit of drama, right? But you know, she's gotten herself out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but most importantly with her is she could potentially be the first woman to qualify to the grand finals of FNCS in NA. Obviously, there's actually another woman playing in EU who's playing technically before her, so she might do it before, but technically she could be the first woman to do it in all of, you know, competitive Fortnite history. But if the other lady, Alba in EU, did it first, it would kind of be funny. But still, yeah, you get the point. Somerset could make history here.
Well, I think everyone is pulling for Somerset. It would be an amazing story. I think it's quite hard to be contested at this part of the map. The team that they're facing, right? Like for instance, Gary is a guy who's been kind of one of these Heats warriors, and you know, kind of in that mid tier of NA pros for a really long time. So some veteran pedigree
experience.
Yeah, experience there. So I think it'll be really hard, but 100% it would be. I mean, it would be up there on one of the better Fortnite storylines ever. If
for sure
contested, she manages to win off spawn and either pull out a win or off of consistency.
Which off spawns are you looking at that have piqued your interest the most?
So we have Day, Penta, and Moxie up here, going against Cosmo and Causers and Jado. Sorry if I completely butchered some names there, but last time, Day is a really interesting player. So this is Day, the 2-time FNCS winner. There's another Day in the other lobby.
Yeah,
console player Day, who is a great guy. I've played against him before. Absolutely destroyed me. Last time we were in trios, Day was 2-time champion and then back-to-back seconds as part of that trio with Tragics and Jamper. That was really, really good. And was one of those classic, the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. Day was fully an eraser at that era of Fortnite. And maybe back in trios, he hasn't quit. He hasn't given up. Maybe back in trios, we'll see a little bit of a Day resurgence. And last time we were in trios, we saw him clean up off spawn fights very effectively. I don't think he's the same player. I don't think, he's in the same tier of pro, obviously, as he was in his championship winning years, as one of the best players on the region, frankly. But I am buying a little bit to come back. So I do really like that off spawn. And I do think that it's one of the ones that could either end early, or it is one of the ones that you could see one of the teams really come out on top.
I think the only potential problem they have, right, is just the fact that, if you're contesting Flooded, that team landing at the metal split south of you, if the fight drags out a bit, they very easily can sort of start to get involved and look to third party that. And if one of the Magic Mosses team ends up having to swerve out towards the north side, if they can get some loot, get the shrine, they might decide, hey, okay, there's some fighting here. Can we get in and get some damage? So, those fights can't drag out. They sort of have to try and close them out as quickly as possible. They're gonna be in a bit of trouble there. But I 100% agree with you.
I think it's interesting. Yeah, you definitely do not want to be contested in a lobby like this, where there's only 5 games, and winning can be a lot of randomness. So you definitely don't want to be contested in a lobby like this. So it goes for all the off spawn fights, but that is one that I'm interested in, and I am somewhat invested in Day being really well suited to trios. Actually, from a point that you made on Fantasia, which is maybe we'll see a bit of a resurgence of controller players who just need to frag, just need to get eliminations, and they don't need to do as much as part of a larger trio versus duos where there's more expected and the input maybe holds them back a little bit more.
Right. I almost forgot I had said that, but yeah, I remember saying that sort of when we were going back into trios. And one thing I did say this week on Fantasia was talking about how boring it can be to be the fragger. Whereas like I feel like a lot of controller players can like deal with that boringness because it's just like, yeah, like just get me to end game. I'm gonna jump in some boxes and like do my thing. So yeah, it would be great to see a resurgence of those types of players for sure. Do you think we'll get any surprises out of this group when it comes to, you know, some of the better teams, bigger names not doing as good? Obviously, Rapid, Canada, and Bolts are a fantastic trio and amazing players, but the controversy surrounding them has been the fact that Rapid and Bolts haven't been grinding the game as much. I think Canada's also been on the meme coins a bit, right? But the narrative is more the fact that his teammates aren't on the grind, especially in the case of Bolts, who coming into this year was seen as the person who could match and rival Peterbot individually. And now it's like what seemed to be a promising future and career for this guy has just turned into, nah, I'm going to focus on making money from meme coins.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of supposed to be the chosen one, right? It was him and Poyo. They were the two players who were really going to challenge Peter as in their prime, super talented, ready to go on a generational run. And I think it's been disappointing that it's cut short. Again, I don't really think people treat meme coins like it's, you know, like a career in accounting or something where it's like super stable and maybe like way more stable than being a Fortnite pro, which I don't believe.
Right.
The kind of the narrative around, oh, all these players are leaving to do meme coins is a bit silly to me because you're just as likely to lose your money as you are to gain your money. So hopefully it's not an ongoing trend in space, and this is kind of a one-off. Everyone's, you know, really excited.
It's a bit of a phase.
Exactly.
You know, it's a phase. It's a wave. People actually forget that we've had this before in the comp scene. Like there was a time like a year or two ago where there were a bunch of like players doing like crypto related things, and like we sort of lost a couple people. The difference then was like we sort of lost people who were like on the fringes anyway, like the kind of people who like you would have expected to quit anyway. The problem is now is that just more of the top level players have like been
really bought in. Yeah,
they've bought into it.
They've really bought in. Yeah, so it has been. Bolts went on such a generational run after Globals. It is disappointing that it's not like one, that the Poyo, Rapid, and Bolts trio broke up, because I think them going head to head, I was really excited just to write videos all year about those three going head to head on NA with Peter, Cold, and Ritual, and it obviously it didn't materialize, but this is still a really good trio. I think it's the same thing, which is these guys are so talented and have so much experience and so much pedigree that they'll have to be not locked in for a really long time for them to really struggle in a real way. They're probably still pretty easily top 10, maybe even likely top 5, as long as they queue into the tournament.
Which isn't a guarantee.
But so again, it's one of those teams, super talented. So I don't think we'll see a huge decline in Major 1, but what's going to happen going forward? I do think that the other big name team in this lobby, which is Acorn, Agers, and Poyo, that team is much more locked in. And that may be one of the other teams that could challenge Peterbot. So Acorn is a bit of a Major 1 merchant, right? 3 FNC championships, all Major 1s. So 3 of the last 4. The only thing that got in his way is the Bugha and Miro 3-peat. Defending trio champion Bugha, who's got to throw some respect on his name. So I do think, if we're shifting a little bit into talking about this team's potential in grands, I do really, really, really think that this is probably the other team most likely to give Peterbot a real run for his money.
Yeah. When this team formed and I did like a preview of FNCS that week, the first thing I said was like, this team is better suited on paper, I think, for set lobby finals. I think this team is primed for that environment. I think when you look at Agers and Poyo as players, they are sort of perfect for what Acorn needs as an IGL. It's sort of like as close to cold as you're going to get. Like you're going to get You got two people who, you know, aren't going to say too much, but you know they're going to get the kills when you need. If anything, the one aspect of those two as players that probably is better for what, you know, Acorn needs and IGL compared to Cold is that both of them sort of have experience making calls themselves, and like, you know, Aegis and Poyo, more so Aegis, right? Because Poyo can be a bit quiet. But Aegis can like make a calm and make a call of like, hey, we should be doing this. Whereas I feel like Cold was always a lot more like reserved of like, tell me what to do, IGL, right? Which can maybe put a bit more pressure on Acorn. But I do really think these guys, you know, are you know, in a really good situation to sort of go forward into Grands, and just outright, you know, be that team that can, you know, push deep in.
Exactly.
It's tough because I'm still not at the stage yet where I think like this team is competing with Peterbot, but I don't think they're far away from that. And I think like you sort of highlighted, in theory, if there was anyone that was going to be, I know we just talked about how Vidil and Cooper and them have been the second best team, but like in theory, when you're looking at all teams on paper and you're looking at the context of everything, this would probably be the team you'd say would be the most likely to push long term, at least, right? Like over the course of a year.
100%. I still do, you know, vision a future where it's the Peterbot versus Poyo storyline all year on
Right.
NA, and they're going back and forth. I still do think trios, it just so happens this is really true for Ritual, Cold, and Peterbot, which is with trios, the sum of the parts, the whole can often be better than the sum of the parts. I think even more so than duos. That's definitely true in duos, and it was true with Peterbot and Poyo, and the plans that Coach Raz had set up for them and the way that they approached their three-peat last year. But I do think two veterans, two players who have been amazing in trios, and then Poyo, who's probably top 3 player on the region still, especially with Bolts checking out a little bit. I really do hope that maybe Major 1 is too far gone. I don't believe it. I'm still holding out hope.
You still got hope. I love it.
I do believe that, you know, as we move through the year, that this could be one of the teams that really pushes Peterbot.
Okay. No, you know what? I like that. I like that, Teddy. Look, when it comes to fantasy for this one, we're not going to go into it because I feel like we'll be here for another half an hour, to be honest with you. But what I will do is I think I'm going to make an Fantasia League on the Clutch Up website. And the code is going to be in the description to join, or the link for you to be able to join and compete against other Fantasia fans will be there as well. So if you want to get involved in fantasy, which I think you should, it's a great idea. It makes watching the tournament so much more fun because, you know, I'm there. Like, I unironically will be there, like, watching, you know, the NA tournament going, mate, Sharkman, mate, you better get a win. You're going to be supporting players you've never supported before. So get involved, you know, shout out to Teddy and Clutch Up for creating this, because it's the kind of thing that comms needed for a long time. Anything you'd like to shout out, Teddy? We appreciate you for doing this to me, man. It's been fun talking Fortnite with you.
No, I love it. Thanks so much for having me. Shout out my fellow redhead, Coach Harry. Hopefully I filled his shoes pretty well on the NA side. Play fantasy, watch Clutch Up videos, and that's pretty much all I got. We have a lot of great videos up there that I'm super proud of.
Absolutely. Hey, appreciate you, man. And yeah, we definitely got to do this again sometime, for sure.
Anytime.
For sure. All right. Well, guys, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. And we'll see you guys very, very soon.